Funniest Designs. This is a live show on Thursdays, London Greenwich Mean Time, 9 o'clock. It's recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I've been playing with the magical Doodle Designs, which is a Christmas Memories. And it's fairly thin paper, it's not a thicker paper. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to do something a little bit different. So the Amazon Gremlin made me buy the new Derwent watercolour pencils. So this is the new set. Now I have the original, which is in the pale green, and I think you can still get these actually. And they look a little bit waxier, just a tiny bit waxier. There's a bit of a sheen on the end of the pigment there. These are a little bit kind of matte. So I think the binder has changed very slightly, and the wood's changed. This is a very dense, thick wood. This is a soft wood. But obviously that's because, you know, I've had these 20 years, that's why they're cracking, but they're still wonderful. And people have got to use different woods these days. So I'm going to have a play with these next time. But I thought, instead of using them as a watercolour like I normally do, I would use them as a pencil. And I've not done this since I was a child, probably for a long time, is scratch colour as a pencil. Now, it's not finished, I was just having a bit of a play. But I like the idea that it's completely dry. But there won't be many of these because it plays havoc with your hands. This is why I don't use all the wonderful pencils that are out there. But I thought I would have a go with these Derwent watercolour pencils, so you've got the best of both worlds. You've got, because the pigment is a professional watercolour in there, you can use it as a pencil, but you can also either touch this and make it into a watercolour, or you can do how I normally do, is scratch a bit of colour and manipulate it with a damp brush. So when my new studio is built, there will be a series all about using the Derwent watercolour pencils and just how versatile they are. So this was my first attempt at playing with these Derwent watercolour pencils as a pencil. And I'm not sure if I'm doing it right because I don't normally watch people who do pencils because I normally can't use them. Which would lead me on to buying a children's set of pencils. You get these little foam grips for children, and some fit are tight and some are loose. This particular one is easy. Now the other ones that are specially designed for poorly hands, you can't get them on and off easy, so it defeats the object because obviously you're going to be sliding them on and off for a while. Now my pencils live in my Derwent art bag. So shoving them in and out of this with this on the end wouldn't be an option. I can put them in backwards, there's no problem. It was £1 for 3 of these, so I've got them on a couple of them. And you can use them at the bottom here as you would normally use a pencil. But obviously you can't see what I'm doing, so I use them like this. And that means that you can slide them anywhere you want, and you can get light or strong pressure, whichever you need. So I thought I'd play with this little robin here, and I've picked out, and the colour combination, the colour names and the colour 1 to 72 is exactly the same as the original Derwent watercolours. So I've got Geranium Lake number 15, and I thought I'd just put a little bit of red, because he's obviously got to be a robin. And then I have a Van Dyke Brown 55, which I think is a little bit pale, so a bit dark rather, so I'm just going to give a little bit. And then if you rub that over the top, it's going to blend quite nicely and just tone down that red. And then I would like quite a pale, I think I've got a gold straw. Now unfortunately I've been rather bad and taken them all out of their proper cover. sure there is a straw. There's a straw, but there's also a brown straw. That's it. There's a copper beech. That might be quite nice. Just to warm the little bird up. And there really isn't any room. And if you have a tiny space, my other Amazon gremlin made me purchase this comb automatic long point. Let me see if I can stick something dark behind it. You might be able to read it. Automatic long point. And the idea is that you put the pencil in and sharpen it until you have the stopper, and then you sharpen it with the point. Now I don't normally do that with the point, but I just wanted a little bit, so I don't do it too much, but I am going to keep all this paint that comes from the end here and make some watercolours with it for my watercolour travel book. Now I did it with the this very quickly. This is the Gansai Tambi watercolours, and I made little fat puddles, so I can sprinkle the shavings, not the wood but the actual pure colour, onto a little piece of wet strength sketchbook paper, not watercolour paper because it'll sink in and we want it to sit on top. So good quality sketchbook paper, and it's called extra wet strength, which allows you to do a little bit of a sketch with some watercolour, but it's also brilliant for using in your watercolour travel book. I will put the sprinklings on here when I sharpen the pencil, and then I will wet it and mix it, and when it dries I should have a puddle of beautiful professional watercolour, and it will match my pencils. But that's when I get into my new studio. So sometimes you do have to sharpen. And again, just a little bit of darkness. Now I want to leave that wing quite light. And this copper beech is actually quite a nice little colour. So we need to... I do want rid of those lines. I'm trying to get rid of all the lines in the entire painting so that it looks a little bit more realistic. And then I think we'll just do a golden, there's a golden straw I think. I think that one must be out. Raw sienna is a little bit red for a robin, although it's a nice brown. I can't find the colour that I want. There's a brown ochre, that's a soft brown, to give a highlight on that little wing. And then we can start from the inside and soften it. So we've got a little bit of a highlight. And then there's a very dark, gorgeous chocolate colour, which would just kind of enable you to... And again, sometimes you might want just to bring him alive a little bit. Oh, sorry, Suzanne. There's a time. Like Suzanne says, you get a bag full for $1. Yeah. I got 3 pencils. Is it the little squishy things? And for goodness sake, don't go on the disabled website, because they charge you an absolute fortune for being disabled, which is quite disgusting. But as a tight Yorkshire lass, I thought I'd give them a go. They were just on 3 little cheapy children's pencils in a little plastic set for 3. And I thought that would be good. Now, I've probably come to the point where I may have to use them for everything. And now this is my ivory black. And sometimes you want just a bit to darken him up a bit. Now I'm going to fish out all the browns. Okay, normally I have them in colour order, but I've been rather naughty. So we've got some really, in this set, fantastic shades of browns, from warm browns to cold browns. Now I do like this French grey, because it's a warm grey. So we have a bit of light coming from that way. So I think that's going to be lighter and that's going to be darker. That'll be lighter, darker and darker. So we'll pick out our colours. I think I might want cold. So Van Dyke, sepia's a bit of a cold. And of course I love the chocolate for the dark rather than using black. And then we have the Van Dyke brown, which again is another one that's would be okay. But now I need a pale one. Copper Beech is quite nice. I've just used that. But you could start with a sienna. A golden ochre would be quite nice. We'll try with a golden ochre. This is what I used on the wing. So we need to change it a bit, because now it's become and that's just a wire, so that's fine. And this one, and what that's going to do is just make sure that we don't make a boo-boo. The next one is the Copper Beech. So even though we've got that colour, we can just kind of mess about and we need a bit of shadow building up, so we can eventually get rid of that line. Now if this was very light, we didn't make this dark, and then that would give us that would give that it would hide that all the lines. So we may have to do a bit of artistic license. But just building up that colour there. You can do quite nicely. And the beauty of these Derwent watercolour pencils is you can play with lots and lots and lots of colours. Excuse me. So again, this one, and this one may be in a bit of shadow because it's behind the other one. So sometimes you can think about that in colour books, and sometimes you can just sit and colour. Sometimes you want to do nice detail, and sometimes you just want to have fun and chill out. And that's why sometimes you do need a bit of a point. So we can almost make that rounded rather than... And by turning this, you make sure you're using a point. So you're building a point every time you turn it. Now there are some mechanical pencils just come out that do this automatically. Every time you touch it, it turns the mechanical nib. And of course that's going to make sure you keep it. Again, I want rid of this grey line. It's grey. I don't really want a grey one, so I've got to create a little bit of a lip, and then we've got the shadow of the snow. So remember, we have a light next to a dark, and that's going to make the lighter lighter and the darker darker. And then we go to this blendy bit, little soft circular motions. Which seems to make some nice effects. So I'm going to do this over here. So again, it's the same wood, same colour, but one I've added a lighter shade and the other one I've added a darker shade. So this one was golden brown, number 59. This one is going to be copper beech, number 61. But then I'll put the chocolate over the other side. So there is a bit of consistency, but one's got a dark colour added to it to give it a dark tone, and one's got a lighter colour with it to make it a lighter tone. So they've both got a bit of copper beech on, but this one I'm now going to put a little bit of chocolate on. Which one's deeper? So that's copper beech. I might just put a little bit of sepia. Sepia is a bit cooler, and I'm not sure if we want to do cooler, but sometimes shadows are cooler. No, I don't like that. We'll stick with chocolate. And again, very soft, which is quite good for my hands because I can't do things. And then we just want a little bit of a highlight, a back highlight, so it's bouncing off. Just a little bit. And I'm going to have to sharpen the pencil. That's the only thing about using these I will do, but I'm hopefully not going to, hopefully I'm not going to waste the colour. When I've finished with this colour, it's going to be into a well, and at the moment I'm saving the dark greens. Oh, that's pure colour, and it will go to a little fat puddle of colour. So I'm going to take the wood off, and then this is what you get normally. Now normally I would work with that, but just for this very fine line. And the chocolate, I've actually done the black one in here as well. So the chocolate and the black is going to make like a very dark Van Dyke brown. So instead of using black, I'm going to have a really nice dark colour. So again, I just want to make that grey line, the outline, disappear. Just gives it that little bit more realism. And you can stop, or you can carry on, and you can just think, well, we need a bit of a dark shadow under that snow, because that makes the snow puff up a bit. And again, you can't see that snow, so I'm going to have to put something here, a shadow, so that I can make that white highlight stand out. The same with that one. It's not going to stand out, so I have to make it stand out. But at the moment, I shall do that last. Because I want that line to disappear. So it's not 2 coats and it's gone. But there's that warm brown underneath. There's the copper beech underneath. So this chocolate is going to look different to this chocolate, because this chocolate has a different colour underneath it. So just by having chocolate and one other colour, so 2 other colours, you've then got 3 browns. So you've got your 3 original, and then you can mix them up. So you've got 9 colours and you've only got 3 pencils. And again, if that's going to be your darkest ridge under there. And again, you can't press down for 2 reasons. One is you'll break your point, which if you do, you've got to save it because it's pure colour. And the other one is you don't want to press that hard. This is blending. This isn't doing what we normally do. So you're just gently working away, building up this. So that it's going to look a little bit more realistic. So if you were doing a watercolour or oil painting or an acrylic, and this is just about as much information you would want. So you would want your drawing to be this accurate and this stage. You've got your buildings and all your lines, perspective, you've got your composition, and you've got a simple line drawing of what's going on. Excuse me. And so this is what drew me to this book. I liked these compositions, I liked these drawings. These were very, very good drawings, and this is the same kind of what you want to aim for if you want to. Just put a little bit of dark down that one so we have a bit of something. Again, this one, that line has almost disappeared now. So if you take it too far, you don't panic. Very soft, and you can hardly see that, but it's made these match together, so you know it's the same wood, but it's just got, it's the light that's changing it. So we'll go back to this one. It's slightly different because we've got snow. Normally, if you're here, you can get rid of the line, but here it's a bit difficult because we've got snow. So we're going to have to work out how we're going to get rid of this grey line, this outline, so it looks more realistic. And again, this is the second coat, so two little thin layers of little circular motions builds a really nice amount of shadow on. And then if you want to do, this is why you need a little bit of a still have your highlight, and if you think that highlight's maybe a bit too much, go back to the Copper Beech and just very carefully knock that highlight down very slightly. So again, another coat. You get about 3 or 4 coats for these pencils, and then you start seeing bits, so you're not going to waste much. But here I'm starting to see a few little tiny bits. So again, I quite like that because that means you're not going to kind of work a page the same thing 20 times over. Just need to just get that just a little bit. So it's nearly had enough now as that. It's almost had enough. I think I'm going back to the Copper Beech. And just, that highlight's got to be lighter than this one. And then we'll go back to the chocolate and just give it a little bit of Go back to the Copper Beech. And then I think we could just have a tiny bit of chocolate just to cool it down a bit. And again, now you're seeing that that's 2 or 3 layers now. It's built up enough, it doesn't want any more. Excuse me. So I need a bit of a shadow, but that shadow would be there, but that shadow might be there. The highlights are coming this way, so you wouldn't have a shadow. So what I could possibly do is just put the gunmetal is the darker one. So the gunmetal, and again you really should be, is just very carefully building up. Just building up very carefully. And again, I'm going to have to sharpen the pencil because this needs to be a fine line. I don't normally take it too far because as a tight Yorkshire lass, I've got a bit of a point. So the best thing to do is to turn it very carefully so you have the curve of your hand, and then put that on the line and drag it away carefully. Put it on the line and drag it away carefully. And then you put it on the line and drag it away carefully. And again, I can just do that little bit more. I want that grey line to become a gunmetal line. So, and some will be deeper than others because snow is never level, is it? There's always maybe a bit of a drift. And then I have another grey that I used. And then I've got the 68, a blue grey, and it's the blue grey. Again, I'm going to have to sharpen it a bit. It breaks my heart, but it's the blue grey that's giving it the cold. It's the blue grey that should be on the line, actually. That's what I've used up there. So we have the blue line. But then it kind of instantly has to soften, so it's got to be a very fine line. Again, I think it's going to have to go into the number 2 pencil slot. Yeah. Fortunately, sometimes you do have to take a bit off. And then when you put it in this one, it turns it and it then becomes the point. Really sharp. So then you can just very carefully really give that little ridge some depth. And at the same time you've got rid of that original line drawing. Now if this was a watercolour, you would just, before you started, you would just you would go around with an eraser after your pencil drawing, and if you draw a little bit and turn, you will get another sharper bit, and your pencil shouldn't lose its point too much. But that's only if you do it kind of every second turn. Make some thicker, some thinner. And you can get rid of that line. And it looks a bit like snow. But you need a little bit of difference. So that was blue grey 68. Then we had the gunmetal 69, and then we've got French grey 70. So French grey is kind of warm, but it'll take the darker one to almost nothing. So it's quite nice to use that one. So I didn't know whether to just bring that down here somewhere. Don't know what the shadow is going to be, but I just want to show that that is snow. And really the only way to do that is to create one or two shadows. And again, I want to really just kind of and you've got to put it somewhere else as well, otherwise it'll look rather silly. So this could be quite dark. And then you can build up this bit here, because we do want that snow to really feel. Perhaps I should have done it more that way. Turn it slightly. Again, it's got to be a bit comfortable, because so it wants to go with the road really, so we'll go that way. And we can make that into a bit of a shadow. Just give that a little bit of a... So you can make your lighters lighter and your darkers darker by having a dark next to a light, or an exaggerated light next to a dark. Just darken that a bit. And then that will show. Oops, sorry, I've done that off camera. And because I've managed to get, I managed to get a dark next to a light. Now that looks really, really like snow. And you could even really make that stand out. Same with this one. You really could make that stand out. I should have gone very much with the angle of the road, but that's fine. And that's also given that area a little bit more interest. Just building that up gently. And then softening it with this one. Because So we want the little bird to kind of and I think that's just about okay. So, and you can play about with it, and if you think, oh gosh, it's too much, the magic electric eraser, you can it's got some dark on it already, so I'm not going to clean that off because it'll make a smudge, and a smudge is wonderful. So if you want to get this bit of a thing back, you can take it back. Now you can't do this if it's watercolour and you'd already fixed it. But you can do it if you're not happy with it. Because we just need it to be dark where it hits the snow. Right, so we'll turn to the greens for this corner here. I might do light greens and then I'll cover them over because I do want them to stand out. So we've got, but I like the olive. I might do them olive. I like the olives. So I think we have two olivey colours, and then we have a bronze for the background. But we have olive green and cedar green. I like both those. I think they're the more olivey ones. And sap, kind of like sap to make it. So I'm going to do the lightest one. So sap green is the lightest one of all three. Sap green is number 51. So I'll do the back one first. Just a general scribble. Over. Now again, I might have to just, I think I may have to sharpen the pencil, because when it gets up here it's going to be snow, so I don't really, makes a beautiful point with this pencil, I want to just work in little circular motions, and what that's going to do is going to give me a very sound edge. It doesn't matter too much down here, so I'll start up here actually because I need the point. So what we need to do is to just get to, we want a lovely crisp edge because it's going to be pure white snow there. So we do want to kind of, but we can darken this up because remember this is in the foreground, so as rules go this can be really really dark, but it's nice to put a bit of a highlight on it so we can ease up on the dark and have some lights and dark areas, so just to give the hedge or shrub a little bit more interest. So I am working very much like watercolour. I'm working light to dark. So this is going to be my highlight. So we've got just a base colour. And then we'll have the cedar green next. And that's given a completely flat colour now. But again, I'm going to have to sharpen it. So you sharpen it in number 1, it takes the wood off it, and then you sharpen it in number 2, and it creates a point. Now you've got to be careful, it's a long point, but you want really soft, gentle. If you push down, you will snap your point, but you can put that in a pot of water, a little pot of water, and you will get a watercolour wash if you're doing a landscape with green. So we can build just that particular one up, and again I'm going to have to sharpen it, which is breaking my heart, but I just want a little bit of a, want to get rid of that line, so still got all the lovely colours on the inside, but we're just giving it a bit of, and I think I'm going to bring the chocolate in. Now the one thing about using chocolate again is I've used chocolate for the darks up here and everywhere, so it has a little bit of continuity. There's chocolate in everything, but you just want the softest amount, because we don't want to put chocolate in here, but we want to make the green a darker green, and by adding chocolate brown to green, it's just created a bit more interest and darkened it up a bit. And we have quite a dark green. There's a bottle green, which is still a green, but it's not the olive, so that's quite a nice colour. So the next one would be the sap green. So what we have to do is create a highlight on the edge of these. So this one can be dark, but again we don't want it everywhere, because if we have it everywhere we won't have any interest. And really these tops would be paler. But again, that's sometimes quite nice, because you're going to have different areas with slightly more sap green than you are olive green, and then slightly more chocolate. So now more cedar green. I think I'm going to take that cedar green and kind of see if I can get rid of that edge. And again, little soft motions, and just turn the point ever so often, so you keep a sharp point. And you can't press down, because you will break your point, and I have learnt that. can build up some nice colour. You get about 3 layers, 4, and you're struggling a bit. Four, and the paper says, you know, hang on, we're just a paper. So again, I do want rid of that green line. And if you go over it, it doesn't matter because you can use your eraser a bit later, and I'll show you how to do that. You can only do that if you haven't pressed on. So we just got that little bit of something. So I just do this little bit, and then unfortunately for me, if you build this shadow next to this one, you can keep the highlight on this one because you're taking the line away from behind it rather than in front of it. So by building this up, then you can do pale chocolate and take the chocolate right to the edge if you wanted. And then of course you've got a bit of a shadow, but you don't have a shadow under everyone, so you can't always get away with that, but it depends on how much you want to bring out. So if you want people to look at this, then you want to keep this a little bit lighter. So we've got some more chocolate on there, and that's building up quite nicely, this little area here. And if you are really tempted to give it a bit of oomph, a digi amount of black, and the black will cool it. And again, you can see the little bits appearing now because, you know, really it doesn't really want to be black, but it's giving it a little bit more contrast. So we can then take our eraser and kind of go in there, and what we've done is we've created a stain on the page. It won't come completely white, but again we can make these trees darker because we've got a highlight next to it. So we're taking this off. I mean, you can put it back on if you don't like it, but experiment, find what you like. Now I've just managed to clip that, but you know, you can take this way. All we wanted was a little bit on that bit there, so it will stain it, but of course the stain looks like just a bit of something. And again, we can take some of this off. We really just want it there because we wanted that highlight. For the snow. one or two little bits, but you can't really do that because it's a watercolour, so if you've got damp hands, so you really need to be a bit careful. And I do have a little brush, should have a little brush somewhere. Should have a little brush somewhere. Just to sweep it off gently. So just wanted to do something. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. So, oops. So in order to get this highlight back, because it's got a bit grungy, and now this is a bit grungy, pull this out and turn it over. And I don't waste these, I keep them for other dark projects. Now I have a new sharp eraser, so now I can go in there and take that back to pure white, and I can just touch that top, and that didn't really have a top, and I can just touch this bit here and get snow crisp top here, and then this bit here again. I did put purposely some tone on that snow. And then again here, you've got to be careful now you're not going to smudge it again. Here, just go in there and take that. And this edge here. Now, if it gets dirty, you're going to have to start again because you're making marks, but it'll just do for this purpose of this. And there's a complete difference in snow now. So then I want to just gently manipulate that. And I would like a bit of a highlight back on this up here. So you can kind of work a bit backwards if you want. Again on this one, get that crisp snow white edge again. And I think maybe that might just be there. And that could be. And it's just going to give it that little bit more. So if we pan out now, let's see that the snow is looking slightly better. Oops. So we've got some nice dark down here, and we can see the little bird, and just by putting that, which we hardly notice, we still know that's fresh snow, some footprints. By putting that little bit of dark shadow on that, it's made that snow be crisp and clean. Just those little tiny bits here of pure white paper again, and then when I've done this section here, it'll completely change it, because that'll be darker, and then all that just white paper will just be there. And I might darken these little ladies and guys up a bit. But I wanted to show how it was easy to use Derwent watercolour pencils. Let's see. In your colour books. So thank you for watching.